Okay, so let's jump into it. Feel free to raise your hand, call out, whatever. I'll actually go back here because that will be easier. So what did you guys think as you were talking to this group? What moments really stood out for you as linked to those ideas of trauma that we talked about?
We kind of noticed that he jumps around a lot and what he's saying, and so that could show that it's like a traumatic experience or that he can't relive it all at one time and has to come back to it at different points.
Okay, great. Yes, okay, so there's jumping around and temporal in space. Okay, I'll leave it at that. I won't try to translate too much there.
He also repeats certain stories he has that go on Kurt Longman and it comes up multiple times, so you can see that it's something that keeps coming up in his thoughts.
Excellent. Okay, so that idea of the Kurt Longman story reoccurring over and over again throughout text in different ways too, right? We're not receiving it in the same way each time. That seems important. So that perhaps is linking to his own reliving of memory. What else did you guys notice in the story?
In the story itself, when the guys were hearing like the sounds of the party and like music, like that was in itself is a form of like trauma. You guys obviously went through something and can't deal with why.
Yeah, that's a really perplexing moment of the story, isn't it? Trying to figure out what was actually going on in that patrol. So this is the section where the guys go out on patrol and they think that they hear the opera or the party, the dinner party going on. And then do you remember Mitchell Sanders, that character, then it's what about that story he told? Do you guys remember? What did Mitchell say? Yeah.
Like he says there really wasn't music.
That there was, right, that it was just silence, and that was what was provoking the story to be told that way. Other ideas about themes that stood out to you?
The water buffalo CD for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
Let's talk about the water,
just
yeah.
reading that.
Let's talk about the water buffalo scene. And I was telling this group over here that really continues to be, for me, as a reader, one of the more difficult scenes to get through. Did anyone else have that experience too, just in terms of show of hands? This relates a little bit, links nicely, I'm glad you brought it up, because it links nicely to the next question as well, in terms of the way that symbols or other things are standing in for certain experiences. What did you guys make of the water buffalo scene? What did that evoke for you as a reader?
I think he shows like his anger and just like how to put it out. It's like totally. But I think he shows how like it's unfair that like that's like it's like going around and then he just like has to like put it down.
Right, okay, let's turn to this scene actually. Okay. 78, correct? 78 to 79. And on page 79 there, at the bottom, so so we have the description itself of the violence, the shooting, right, continuing kind of like violence towards this animal. And then it says, can someone read here where it says Rat Kylie down to, not yet a name for it? Volunteer to just read that. So right here, in Rat Kylie. That's over here.
Okay. Rat Kylie was crying. He tried to say something, but then cradled his rifle and went off by himself. The rest of us stood in a ragged circle around the baby buffalo. For a time, no one spoke. We had witnessed something essential, something brand new and profound, a piece of the world so startling that there was not yet a name for it. Somebody kicked the baby buffalo. It was still alive, though just barely, just in the eyes.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the response to the scene from the event. Based on that response, what do you guys think of why this scene, what is it expressing to us? What is it expressing in the text?
I think it expresses, the experience over there, how, a piece of them, they kept losing a piece of them, throughout their experience. Something kept, almost like they kept getting shot in the heart.
Okay, yeah, so in some way we can see this is really a metaphor for what we're going through.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any ideas about what's going on?
Like the different reactions of to death.
Okay,
Like rat,
right. The responses that you see in individuals in these kinds of situations of war.
They also keep mentioning like how it's something that they've never seen before, so it shows that they're kind of like in shock. Like this is like an experience that they never would expect.
Right, right. And one thing that we want to kind of think about is the way that these men's shocked experiences circulate around this moment and not one other moment.
And for most of them, war was a new thing for them.
Yes.
A lot of them were brand new to it.
Right.
We live very innocent lives here, and then to go off to war is, it's a whole new life almost.
Mhm. So it's brand new, they use that word, right? There was not even yet a name for it.
Yeah.
And I want to think about that. There was not even yet a name for it, right? What other scenes of death do we maybe not get the reaction to, where we are getting the reaction from the men here? Chat.
When Kurt Owen dies, they don't really react to it at all. They just kind of sit there.
Okay, yeah, right. This is a really important point. That in the world of the novel, we're presented with the death of Kurt Lennon in several different ways, but none of which provokes the response that we see here, right? So in some way, we want to ask ourselves, is this emotional depiction standing in, telling us something about what the author does not want to say about the other death, about the death of Kurt Lennon, right? And maybe that can help us understand some of the other points about love and who's not loved in this next question. So what did you guys make of the love story, who's not loved? And we can kind of think about, too, who falls outside the frame. These questions are kind of coupled in the way form. So what did you guys make of the exclusions, the pejorative terms for certain groups of people? What was going on there? So who's loved? Who do you guys think the love story is for?
The love that they had for Kurt and how upset they were when he died.
Great. Okay, so the love for the person that died. Excellent.
I really, not only just like the love for Kurt, but the love for each other.
Mhm.
And it's just like, you see the brotherhood factor with all those men who are in this situation and they have nothing else to love in the time because they only have each other.
That's also why I love that Sargent painting that was up earlier,
Yeah.
right? It shows the really interconnectedness, the bodily, depending on the other person in a situation of war, that this needs to be broken in that sense. What else is this a love story for? And what is this not a love story for? Where are we getting the hate directed? The trickier side of it, right? Seeing what's not there or seeing what's there in the face is sometimes more difficult than seeing what is there. Yeah.
I mean, this isn't hate, but like, I feel like it being in a war family, when they're treated like, feel like an outsider, so then you can't relate to when you're going to help other people. So then he talks like negatively about some of them.
Right, right, and particularly what that last
The
scene,
woman, yeah.
right? The woman who is at the reading, and what does she do? You guys remember? What does she do? What is her response to hearing Tim O'Brien read the story? Or, sorry, the narrator. I never want to say Tim O'Brien, I always want to say narrator. What's her response? Yeah.
She liked it, but it was really sad, and she basically told me to like write different stories.
She says, write different stories, get over it. What part did she think was the most effective? The water buffalo scene, right? And that seems in some way to evoke the response and the use of the pejorative term. I don't want to go over too much time here, but when he calls her that name, and I asked this group back here, I think, to think about the pejorative term used for the woman. Where else does that occur in the story?
The sister too.
The sister, right? So remember, Rat is writing to Kurt Lemon's sister, right? And what does she do that prompts him? She doesn't write back, right? Okay, so in some ways we see this failure, the question about where do stories fail or where does language fail when it comes to war? And I think that in some ways we can also see as perhaps commenting on our roles as readers in being receptive. In terms of the woman whose response is to cry and come up with him, say, get over it, you should start writing about different things, and then telling him that the hardest part for her was the water buffalo dying, right? Rather than perhaps the Kurt Lemon story, right? That can prompt us to think about what are our ethical responsibilities as readers, and how is fiction perhaps making us feel a certain way by use of the representation of traumatic experience that can attune us to become more empathetic listeners in other situations around us when it comes to war or other traumatic experiences. So I'm going to pause there and just take a moment and take questions from people. Anybody have questions? And I guess for those of you in the back too, if you have questions about anything. I know way too much about trauma, so if anyone's interested, more than you'd ever want to know about traumatic experience. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for being such a cooperative and participative audience. It was a pleasure to talk to each of you guys today in group work. And please feel free to ask me questions following this if you have any ideas or thoughts. Okay? Thank you. It's great. Thank you. Did you get a I know. Wait,